Salutations, ladies and gentlemen, the Knife Raven here, back again with another video. And in today's video, well, I am almost always late to every party, and so this is no exception. Today I'll be doing a 2 for Tuesday, and I believe this was an open tag. I forget who originally started it, I will check, just for confirmation, but nonetheless, this was an open tag that has been around for quite some time, and almost everyone in the traditional knife community who has, well, any following, has done a video on this topic, and except me. So I figured today I would, albeit very late, join in on the fun, and bring out two knives, since I thought I'll make a video today. Didn't really know what I wanted to make, and so here we are. These two knives I pulled out of my carry rotation. I was carrying these today. And they are both some very interesting little slip joints, but the thing that is similar about them is they are both red knives. Now, red isn't the rarest color to see in particularly traditional pocket knives, but it's certainly not common. So these two knives are from probably very underappreciated and unknown brands. Starting with this one, this is a Joseph Rogers & Son Lambfoot, and I got this just over a year ago. Has a very fine mirror-polished Lambfoot blade with that very aggressive curve to the point. Have a very nice finish again. Blade play is non-existent. Blade is perfectly straight. Gapping, not really an issue. You can see there are some very slight gaps here, but holding it up to the light, the only gap that actually, well, is a gap is up here. Pins are perfectly smooth, transitions are flawless. And again, the handles here are made of rosewood with resin, giving it that very smooth, water-resistant surface. Brass liners and pins, nickel-silver bolsters. And on the blade, it says, Rogers Stainless, Sheffield, England, and it has the Maltese, pardon me, the Maltese cross, which is one of Rogers' trademarks. Pull is fairly good. I'd give this about maybe a 6. It certainly isn't as snappy as some knives, which is a little unfortunate, but not too big of a deal. The only real complaint I have is the nail nick is very small, meaning it's hard to get the blade out. And you can't pinch this knife open. It is requiring that you use the nail nick, otherwise you're going to be fiddling with this blade trying to get it out, and it is not easy to get out. But yeah, this is a very well put together, simple, traditional pocket knife. It's very small too. Even for a Sheffield folding knife, which they tend to always be smaller slip joints. I'll get the ruler out, just so that you can see. The knife measures around 6 inches overall, which is fairly short. Blade length is around 2.5 inches, with just over 2 1/4 cutting length. And the handle comes in at just around 3 1/4 inches. So yeah, this is a very, very small little knife, even by slip joint standards. You can still get a 4-finger grip on it. So it's not, a keychain knife by any means, but it's definitely on the smaller side. Some people might not like size, but personally, I think it works very well. One thing that I did note about this knife, I haven't had to sharpen it because, again, I don't do a lot of heavy cutting tasks with my knives, but the factory edge that's still sort of salvaged here is immensely sharp, and I will give you an example of what I mean by that. Just find a little piece of paper, and you can see. Oh, apparently it doesn't want to work now. There we are. So very, very clean cut provided you, master the technique on how to properly slice paper, which I'm oddly bad at whenever on camera. But nonetheless, very nice edge, very, very skinny blade stock with a nice flat grind. Made in Sheffield, England. And this is one of the oldest companies, I think, of knives that I own. I think they went back to the 16 or 1700s. So this is a very long-lasting company. Yeah, made in Sheffield. Next up, we have an even stranger piece. This is the German Bull Razor Jack. Now, this is a Barlow, as very clearly referenced by the nickel bolster here. We've got brass pins, liners, nickel silver shield that says German Bull, French nail nicks on both blades, about a 4 to 5 pull, very slight bit of blade play, but nothing too severe. Nice mirror polished clip point, flat ground. Got the German Bull logo again, and here it says German stainless handmade. And I believe it says the same thing here. Although very oily. There you are, German stainless handmade. I don't know why they bothered stamping the logos on both blades. That seems a little strange to me. But this is a traditional Barlow. You can get a 4-finger grip on it. Fairly comfortable, nice little bit of unsharpened blade to choke up. Again, the clip point is very versatile. Again, made of stainless steel, so let's check the sharpness quickly. Fairly sharp, but again, getting that first initial cut isn't particularly easy. Again, that was a cardboard test this time. And then the second blade, which is a razor design, could almost be akin to a spay blade, has this little groove here for you to put your finger under. And I guess this could make a straight razor if you sharpened, well, heck out of it, because it's not particularly sharp now. I definitely couldn't shave with it. Again, it can cut, but not particularly well. I could probably give this a little bit of a sharpen. I'd say about a 4 on the pull for this one. Again, almost none, but there's a tiny bit of blade play. Gapping on this knife is a little bit worse than the Sheffield. You can see it's mostly up by the bolsters, which is a little peculiar, holding it up to the light. Yes, indeed, a little bit of light does shine through. But aside from here, there isn't really any gapping throughout the rest of the knife. The handle here is very pretty, and this is called their, I believe, cherry red pick bone. Now, I'm not sure how they did the jigging for this, but it's a unique pattern. Doesn't look particularly common. Here, I'll present an example of another jigged bone knife that I just recently discussed. Here is the Peach Seed Jig Mini Copper Lock from Case, and you can see the jigging naturally is a different pattern. But nonetheless, this is a very nice little Barlow, and I think that for the knife side of it, it's a great carry. I mean, sharpen it up, it should serve you well. I haven't had any rust issues with this. Seems like it would be a fairly simple knife to take care of. Just put a bit of oil in the pivot and everything. So for a knife, this is a very good choice. I think that some people might not like the heavily overemphasized Barlow or the large shield or the double stamps. This knife definitely really wants to make sure that it has branded what it is, which I guess is an okay thing, but at the same time it does get a little bit overcomplicated. Meanwhile, you've got over here a blade with only one stamp, nothing on the other side, no shield, nothing on the bolster, and it's just a much cleaner looking knife overall. So I obviously prefer the Rogers, but at the same time, for a German-made knife at a very reasonable cost, these are both very budget-friendly. This knife cost, I think, around 60 or 70 Canadian, which all things considered isn't that much for a handmade Barlow. And this knife, I think, was about 60 or 70 Australian dollars, I remember. I think that translates something like, like 65 Canadian, because Canadian's just a little bit less. But yeah, these are both fairly mid-range budget. They're certainly not over $100, and they're certainly not below 50, so they're not uber cheap, and they're not premium either. They're just good mid-range knives, a little cheaper than a case, and I think at least for this one, the quality is a bit better than the average case. This one, I'd say, is pretty equivalent to a case knife, and that's not a bad thing, but I'd certainly say that, again, the over-embellishment is a little bit much for me, but just staring at it from this side, it's a very pretty knife with a very nice design. I love the clip point, no half stops, nothing, and while I do see this having a potential use, it certainly doesn't do it for me. I think it's just a little bit too busy, and personally, having a razor on a pocket knife, even if you never take it out, straight razors just tend to give off that vibe of weapon, and I hate to say it, but there have been way too many gangster movies where people have been attacked by a straight razor, and from that, it has completely kind of brainwashed people into thinking that, well, straight razors are weapons. No, they're meant to shave, but unfortunately, just this blade shape, while it's not intended to, it definitely could convey something that it shouldn't, and that's just an unfortunate fact. For me, though, I think that this knife would be perfect if they simply just left the bolster plain, didn't put a shield in, made it a one-blade knife. Because if you take away the second blade, cover up the embellishment in the bolster, and just remove the shield, perfect knife. Keep it at the same price, maybe go a little cheaper, and I think that would be a bestseller. Because it's made in Germany, whatever the steel is, I think it's about, $440 or $420. It's certainly not bad, but it's not premium super steel. So I think if they just removed a bit of the embellishments, took away the razor blade, even though that is kind of its trademark, it's what makes it special, then this knife would be a very good seller, because it conveys the classic look of a traditional Barlow. And even though it's a little bit of a fancy one, I think that it does it very well. So yeah, there it is. My 2 for Tuesday picks. Red knives. I don't know if there are any rules or restrictions for what you can and can't make part of your video, but if so, let me know if I did something wrong. But yeah, I decided to go with these two: Sheffield, Germany, Lamfoot, Clip Point, Barlow, Swayback. Yeah, I think these are both really nice little knives, and I want to bring to light any underrated brand that may be worth checking out, but isn't really mainstream. So here we are, and I hope that you've enjoyed this. I wouldn't consider this a full review, but I would also consider it a full review because I reviewed both of these individually on my other channel. I believe the videos are still up. But yeah, it's been over a year for both of these that I've had them. And I like both of them. I think they both have some advantages. I don't carry them particularly often, but today was the day I decided to take them out. And yeah, I figured I'd share them with you. So thank you very much for watching. This has been my 2 for Tuesday picks, red knives, and thank you very much for watching. This has been the Knife Raven, as always, signing off. Goodbye.